Hi, my name is Jen Watson, and I'm the Student Success Center Technician at ACC. I create workshops like these throughout the fall and spring semesters. If you ever have questions about a workshop, feel free to contact me. My contact information will be included in the last slide. Today we will be discussing the American Psychological Association, or APA 6th edition. If you have been instructed to write in APA format, then this workshop is for you. Part of my job in the Student Success Center is to help students with their writing, and I have a lot of contact with instructors on where students generally have trouble. Make sure that you are using the correct edition of APA. As of October 2019, APA published edition 7, which has a lot of changes from the 6th edition. Some instructors may continue using the 6th edition, and some may change to 7. It is up to you to know which one you are meant to use. I designed this workshop to cover key aspects of research writing style and format. In this workshop, we will discuss plagiarism, credible versus not credible sources, how to use the library for research, APA format. I'll give you an APA title page example, show you how to create a reference page, and how to use in-text citations. At this point, I am sure you have heard of what plagiarism is, or at least heard the term. It is important to understand what plagiarism is all about because it will help you understand the need for formattings like MLA or APA. Plagiarism is a broad term that covers many aspects of outright copying and some not so obvious copying. So first, copying without giving the original author credit is the obvious definition. Not using quotation marks correctly is also a form of plagiarism. You must put quotation marks around all of what you are using from someone else's work, and you must not change the original wording in any way. This also means that you must use quotation marks if you are using someone else's exact wording. Giving false information about the source. Sometimes you might find that during your research you forget to record pieces of information that you need in your citations, such as dates or page numbers. If you make any of this information up or leave it out, then you are also plagiarizing. Finally, copying images, videos, and music without giving credit is also considered plagiarizing. All of this said, please make sure that you keep track of your sources and be careful how you use them because there are disciplinary actions instructors and schools can take if you get caught using others' work inappropriately. Something else I like to touch on is the difference between credible and not credible sources. Making sure that you use credible sources will help you with your overall research, and fitting your sources into APA format will be that much easier. Some examples of credible sources are peer-reviewed journals, websites from credible institutions with .edu, .gov, or .org in the URL, and the more citable information, the better. Some examples of not credible sources are blogs. Blogs can be written by anybody and are not peer-reviewed in any way. It is okay to use blogs in some circumstances, but you must recognize a source for what it is. Wikipedia. Please do not ever list Wikipedia as a reference in your reference list. Wikipedia is also an example of something that can be written by anyone. However, I will say that it can be very useful in your initial research. You can use Wikipedia to discover credible sources by using the source list at the end of the entry that you have looked up. But you must take this extra step. Author unknown. Most people who write anything want recognition for it, so if there is no author, you must consider why that is. However, sometimes you'll find on large websites that the articles do not have authors. When that happens, you need to consider if the website organization itself is the author. For example, you will see this sometimes with sites like history.com or government websites. Old material, for example, medical data. You also need to pay attention to when your source was published. If you are writing about a topic like brain surgery, but your sources are from the 1950s, they lose their credibility because they are no longer relevant. However, if you're writing about the French Revolution, then the publication date does not matter as much. This note is especially important for APA. For scientific type research, 7 years is usually considered the oldest a source can be credible. Now that we have explored what to know before you start writing, we can get into what APA is. APA regulates formatting, in-text citations, and reference lists. I like to look at this like the laws around driving a car. Everyone must do the same thing as to not cause accidents and chaos. Using a format like APA acts the same way. Everyone must follow the same rules so that the audience, publishers, and teachers can follow along and see your proof easily and without a doubt. APA is most commonly used in the social sciences, psychology, economics, political science, nursing, and sociology. Up until this point, most likely you've always used MLA when writing, and that is because you usually do most of your writing in English or language arts classes. Many students get very nervous when asked to switch to APA, so do not feel alone if you feel this way. The truth is that they are similar and exist for the same reasons. You just need to learn a different set of rules. The rules are different because MLA focuses on writing in the humanities, whereas APA focuses more on the sciences, and therefore requires different rules for different types of research. When we go through some examples of citations, I will explain some of these differences. APA lays the base for what is accepted, but instructors or publishers have the right to change whatever they want for whatever reason. So always follow your instructor's directions. If you get your paper proofread, make sure the reader also understands what the directions are. Now on to formatting of your APA 6th edition paper. The paper should be double-spaced, 12-point font, and 1-inch margins. Most of these requirements are already set to default on Word. Please do not try to alter these defaults to make your paper longer or shorter. It's very obvious and will end up getting you into trouble. Also, I will mention that there are no longer specific restrictions on which font to use. Word now defaults to Calibri, which is alright to use, but traditionally you would use Times New Roman. Use active voice in plain language. In scientific writing, you need to be straight to the point and avoid passive and flowery language. There is a title page in APA that includes your title, your name, and your school. Also on the title page, a header begins. The header includes running head, colon, your title all in caps, and your page number. Pages beyond the title page include a header with your title all in caps and a page number. This is an example of an APA 6th edition title page. Here is the left side of the header that includes the words running head, colon, your title all in caps, and on the right side we have the page number that begins on the title page. Please note that after the title page, starting on page 2, the words running head are removed, leaving your title all in caps and the page number. To do this, you need to double-click in the top margin of the title page, check the box that says different first page, type in running head, colon, your title all in caps, and then tab over to the right and click on Insert Page Number and choose the Current Position option. Close out of the header and then go down to the second page and you'll have to insert a header once more. Double-click in the header, but do not check the different first box page, but instead type out your title all in caps and insert the page number again. When you close out of the header, the first page should include the words running head and have the number 1 for first page. Then on the second page and every page after that, you will just have your title and page numbers 2 and so on. Please do not attempt to add in all the headers by hand. If you are still having trouble figuring this out, there are YouTube videos that will show you how, or you may contact me and I will help you out. In the top center of the page is your title, your name, and your school's name. This is all in 12-point font, nothing fancy, no bolding, and no underlining. Keep in mind that this is the bare minimum of information, and some instructors will tell you to add more if they want. When you scroll down to your second page to begin your introduction, you must one more time add your title centered on the second page, and then you may begin. The last pages of your paper will be the reference list. The reference list, like the MLA Works Cited list, follows a simple format. Alphabetized by author's last name. If there isn't an author, then alphabetized by the first letter of the title of the source. Include a hanging indent, but do not add an extra space between sources. This means that the author's name should stick out and the rest of the information should be tabbed over, making it easier for the reader to find a specific source. To do this, you can simply tab the information over, or you can highlight, right-click, click on Paragraph, and use a drop-down box for hanging indent. Finally, remove hyperlinks from your sources. Nothing should be in blue or underlined. Most likely, most of your sources will be from the internet. Microsoft Word will automatically turn a www dot into a hyperlink, which makes it blue and underlined. This is not the proper format, so you'll have to right-click on each hyperlink and click on Remove Hyperlink. Now that we have the paper formatted, we can start putting together what the citations look like in the reference list. I will give you an example of what a citation from a book looks like, as well as an article from a journal. First, we have a citation from a book. This would be a book that you have a hard copy of and not something that you have found on the internet. If you are familiar with MLA, you will notice that there are some big differences in the order of items and how you will record them. I promise, though, that once you get the hang of it, you will like it. First, the author's last name is listed with their first initial. There is no need to write out the author's first name. If you write out the author's first name, then you are using the wrong format. Next, we have the date in parentheses. Most of the time, all that is important is the year. With MLA, the date comes close to the end of the citation, but in APA it is second because if you remember, how current the date is important in scientific writings in APA, so it is of high relevance and therefore close to the beginning. After the date comes the title of the book in italics. There's also a difference here in how you may be accustomed to writing titles. Notice that not every word is capitalized, only the first letter of the title and the first letter of the subtitle are capitalized, unless there are proper nouns involved. Next, we have the location of publication, which in this case is New York, New York. And finally, we have the name of the publisher. Our next example is an article out of a journal. For most, this will be what most of your main sources look like. Like with the book example, the author, or in this case authors, come first with only their last names and first initials. They are connected by an ampersand meaning and. After the authors comes a date in parentheses. Then we have the article title. When your source is inside of another source, you will have to record both titles. Notice again that only the first letters of the title and subtitle are capitalized. Next, we have the title of the container, or in this case, the journal title. This is set apart from the article title by using italics. It is a proper noun, so all first letters are capitalized in the journal, Social Science Research. Most journals or newspapers have volumes and numbers. In APA, it is not labeled. You just throw in the volume number in italics, and then right next to it in parentheses is the issue number. Because we are only using a section of the journal, we put the page numbers the article is found on. Lastly, we need to put the location of the article. Most likely you will find articles in a database, so they will have either a regular URL or a digital object identifier, or DOI. Articles will most likely have both a URL and a DOI, but if it has a DOI, that is the only location you need to list. DOIs are permanent locations on the internet, meaning they don't change and therefore are more accurate. Most of the time you'll find the DOI listed at the top of the first page of the article with other information like the volume number. Make sure that you keep track of this information while you're researching, because if you omit items like DOIs and volume numbers, you are not giving an accurate citation and therefore are plagiarizing. Please don't think that you need to memorize all of this though. You can find information on how to cite sources on the Purdue OWL. And there are also citation makers that you can use. I do recommend that you understand how citations are built, because sometimes citation makers are not accurate and cannot tell if you have entered information wrong. Also, if you know that you're going to have to write a lot of research papers, it is helpful to write the citations yourself. It doesn't take long to start memorizing the order of information. You might find that doing it by hand is easier. There is a lot of information that can be included in your reference page. It is important to be aware and record this information as you are going through the research process. Some techniques are to create note cards for each source, where you fill out the entire citation on the front of the card and then write a summary of what the source is about on the back. Or you can start the works cited or the reference list in a Word document immediately, adding on to it as you go along. In the past, I've seen some students attempt to keep open sources on their laptop browser to eventually record them. Do not do this. Make sure you record all of the information somewhere, not just the website, so that if anything happens, you will have the information and will be able to find the source again in the future. You do not want to realize that you have lost the location of all your sources right before you're supposed to turn in your paper. Here we have an example of what your reference page should look like. You can see that there's still a header with your title, all in caps, and your page number. And the title of the page is References, which is centered on the page. Again, nothing fancy, nothing bold, underlined, or enlarged. The page is double-spaced and there are no extra spaces, one source after another. Also here you can see how the hanging indent highlights who the author is of the source, which is where we transition to in-text citations. You will use in-text citations, also known as parenthetical references, when quoting, summarizing, or paraphrasing. Its purpose is to inform your audience that you are referring to someone else's ideas and words. Therefore, whenever you are using someone else's ideas in your writing, you must let the reader know. We do this by adding the original author's last name, date, and page number to the sentence that you are writing. Now I will go through some examples of the rules that go along with in-text citations. The more you write, the more you will memorize these rules, but for now it is best that you know they exist, and when situations come up, you can revisit these rules. When there is one author, the full citation will come at the end of your sentence. Author, year of publication, and page number. For example, Watson, 2017, page 102, period at the end of the sentence. Note that there are commas separating the information and a P period goes with the page number. If you do not have an author but only a title, you will put that here instead of the author. And if any other information is not available to you, then you may simply skip it. For two authors, you will put the author's last name separated by an ampersand, year, and page number. For example, Watson and White, 2017, page 102, period, at the end of the sentence. The first time you use a source with 3 to 5 authors, you will put all of their last names, the year, and the page number. For example, Watson, White, and Smith, 2017, page 102, period. After the first time, you will put the first author listed, followed by the Latin phrase et al., period, meaning and everyone else. For example, Watson et al., 2017, page 102, period. If you have 6 or more authors, then all you need to put is the first listed author's last name, et al., year, and page number. For example, Watson et al., 2017, page 201, period. Now that you have this list, I will remind you again that whenever you use someone else's work, you must use an in-text citation after each sentence, even if an entire paragraph is from the same source. Whenever you end a sentence, you will need a citation. In some subject areas, you may find that you have a lot of in-text citations, and that is okay, but you do need to make sure that you are putting the information into your own words and drawing conclusions to your research. Here I will give you some examples of how you can incorporate your in-text citation into your writing so that you have more flow. It is okay to put all of your in-text citations at the end of your sentences, but it will be less repetitive and help you explain your sources if you vary how you do it. In APA, it is important that you introduce all direct quotes. You cannot simply throw out there someone else's words without mentioning who they are and why they are important enough to directly quote. An example of how to do this is, according to Student Services Technician Jen Watson, 2017, APA and MLA are nice once you get to know them, page 2. You can pull the author and their title out in front, so right away the audience understands whose words you are using, and because dates are important in APA, the year in parentheses will always be tagged with the author. And then of course the page number will be in parentheses at the end of the sentence. Also note here that the sentence does not end inside of the quotation mark, but at the end of the page number. Even when you are paraphrasing, you can mention who the author is and their title. For example, Student Services Technician Jen Watson, 2017, stated that it can be difficult to write citations at first, but it becomes easier with practice. Page 2, period. There are many resources available to help you through the research and writing process. The most common is the Purdue OWL, which you can find at purdue.owl.edu. Or there are APA handbooks if you're interested in purchasing something that you can take notes in and have at your side while you are researching. Thank you for following along with this workshop. If you need help along the way, feel free to contact me at my email address, watsonj@alpinacc.edu, or if you would like any proofreading or tutoring, you may contact the tutor coordinator by email, tutoring@alpinacc.edu. Please follow the link to fill out a very short survey. Surveys like these help me present the best workshops possible.